In a place where the lights are shining bright, Jesus Christ will make things alright. Well, Alikon, thank you. The videos are unable to, you can't share them at the moment because it is still being promoted. Um, so I guess we would have to wait till we're done. I think so. Mad they were. So, guys, thank you for joining. I'm actually this session is actually at the prompting of another friend, Tayo Lumadewa. I'm trying. So it's those concepts. He's supposed to ask me questions, so I'll just wait. But part of the questions he had asked before was that why did I start Pathways? And I recall that the idea popped up in my mind for the first time sometimes in 2004. And I was still an undergraduate, probably my year one undergraduate. It came up to my mind, and I decided we're going to do a recording. So I invited a cousin and a friend of mine from Ibadan. I was schooling in Akure at that time, and we had the first recording. But of course, we didn't do anything with the recording. And I remember that Tayo was part of those who were the recording. But again, between 2004 and 2016, the idea just basically was in the cooler. Then sometimes in 2015, all right, I asked myself what I was doing about this country. I mean, I'm extremely passionate about the country, but really, what has been my contribution up until that point in time? And so as I started thinking about it, I decided I was going to get a little more involved. I was still working in the private sector at that time. I moved from private sector, joined the public sector, and I thought that wasn't enough. And the idea of Pathways came up again. At that time, it was an 11-year-old vision that had not taken up. And so 2016, I did the first set of recording. And it's been great since then, really. So again, in 2016, after I did the recording, I kept it and I didn't share. Up until during this lockdown, I thought to myself, you know what? I went through the recordings again, and I thought the information was still very relevant to this time, and I decided to share it. And it's been amazing, the feedback that had come. And the goal ultimately is to get people. Oh, Fire's back now. Thank you very much. So I was just answering your question while we were waiting for you. So 2016, I released a set of videos again, and the response has been fabulous. But the goal ultimately is to galvanize Nigerians, spur people into believing that you can fix your country, and beyond belief, doing something concrete about it. I believe that anything that you invest in, anything that you give of your time, anything that you're committed to, irrespective of the object of the conversation at that time, it could be your work, it could be your career, whatever you invest time, invest effort in it. It could even be your country, Nigeria. It would ultimately turn out well. And that's my concept, and that's what gave birth to Pathways.
Wow.
So over to you, Brett.
Thank you very much. That's awesome. I remember the first video under the tree.
Yes.
I remember under the
2004. Amazing.
Thank you very much. Now, my next question to you is, why are you doing all this? Even though the environment has battered you, you have been brutally brutalized. Why do you still believe in this sort such complex environment?
Yeah. I'm a man of faith, and so we tend to see things through the eyes of the Spirit. And I believe that there's a purpose, there's a reason why God put me in this country. And I'm extremely committed to that reason, to that purpose. And I think for me, I believe that if we do something about our country, we'll get results, right? If we leave it to the charlatan, the people who don't have the heart of service, who don't even understand what makes a society successful. You know, like the computer has two parts, as the software component, as the hardware component. Societies also have the intangibles and the tangible, what you can describe as the equivalent of the software and what you can describe as equivalent of the hardware. Oftentimes when we talk about development in our country, people think about the hard components, the things they can see, the road, the infrastructure, those things that speak to development. But what people often don't realize is that there's an intangible component, the soft component, and that if you don't get the soft component right, you won't see those tangible results. Right? So my goal is to concentrate on those intangibles, on those things that we cannot see, but that are equally important, and that without them, you cannot have a prosperous country. So why people will concentrate rightly on infrastructure, people don't realize that there's a reason why we don't have that infrastructure. If you don't have love for your country and you find yourself in governance, you are not going to think creatively about how to sort of provide the dividends of democracy, right? So for me, Pathways is about speaking and addressing and bringing to our consciousness those soft components, those intangibles. And I strongly believe, having studied other countries, I strongly believe that if we pay attention on the intangibles, on those things that we can see, things like values, a value system, justice, we think about what it means, a civic responsibility, what it means to be a responsible member of the society. If we can get those parts right, ultimately we would have those the infrastructure and the rest of those things that we desire.
Wow. Thank you very much. I can feel your passion. It's still there. It's still there. The energy is there. What does it mean to be a shining light to you?
A shining light. Being a shining light means, essentially the way I describe it, someone who is making an impact. So someone reached out to me, a younger person reached out to me on Instagram because he had seen a couple of my videos. And he said, you know what, I like the way you speak. I want to learn how to speak well. How do I commercialize my gifting? So I told him, I said, you don't want to speak just for speaking's sake. You've got to speak because your words will cause and spur someone into making the right decisions that will lead him into his desired end. So he was thinking about, and it's amazing, and this is no disrespect, but because of the videos that are going out, I've seen a few people join me, and when I check their profile, I see public speaker, aspiring, and I never described myself as any of those things because I didn't set out to speak, right? I'm not doing this because I want to speak. As a matter of fact, these videos are 4 years in the making, but I didn't release it because I didn't want people to know me yet, right? So I didn't set out to speak. I'm only speaking because I believe that I have a message. And I'm ultimately convinced in that message. And I've tested that message over the years, and it has worked for me. First of all, it has produced results for me. It has also produced results for those in my immediate environment. It's like a farmer. You plant the seed in a test environment. Well, I'm tech, so I'm using the word test environment. You plant the seed in a nursery, right? Once you see the seed germinate, then you can transplant that seed that has germinated into the farmland, right? So the words that you speak must have made some impact before you now say you want to sell it to others on the outside. So being a shining light is being able to impact people, to make the world better than you met it, and to leave people better than you met it, and to genuinely believe that you cannot be great until you serve. And service can be demonstrated either through ultimately through your actions, and that action can be expressed through several and diverse ways.
Thank you very much. So, in all short, people must be service oriented before saying they want to be a speaker.
Absolutely.
Speaking is not just for speaking sake. It has to be tied to a cause. Thank you.
I mean, just to add to that, this thing struck me when President Bill Clinton left office. Of course, Bill Clinton was a governor for 10, 12 years of Arkansas. All through his time as governor, his wife was earning more than him, Hillary Clinton. 992, 993 January became president of the United States of America. Spent 8 years as president. The American president's salary today is $400,000 per annum. But when Clinton left office, and I believe that, I'm not sure what his salary was in 992 or at 2000, but currently the current salary remuneration of the American president is $400,000. But when he left office, when he's asked to speak for 1 hour, he charges as much as $300,000. Right? The reason he's been invited to speak and he commands that much premium is because of what he has to say, and that those things people recognize that they are just not ordinary words. The truth is that, let me stop at that point. So please proceed with the next question.
Wow, you are giving us a parable.
Yeah,
I know you. You are telling us, you are sending us a message. That's a lot. Thank you.
Yeah.
We have self-sphere of influence, which I know you know much about. Entertainment and arts, politics, education, church, media, and family. And co. How do you advise people to be shining light in each of these kingdoms in order for us to move this nation forward in all the 7 influences?
You keep using the shining light, and I spoke about the scripture the last time, and I would go back again. John's Gospel, chapter 1. In the beginning was the Word was God, and the Word was with God. The same was in the beginning. All things were made by Him, and without Him was there anything made that was made. In Him was life, and the light was the light of all men. Then it now came to, I think, verse 5. It says, there was a man sent from God whose name was John. The Bible says it was not the light, but it was sent to bear witness of the light. Because that was the true light that lighted every man that came into the world, that comes into the world. So being a light, the Bible says John isn't the light, but it was sent to bear witness of the light. 1 Peter 2 verse 9 You are a chosen generation, the royal priesthood. You've been called out of darkness, all right, to display the virtues of him that has called you out of darkness into his marvelous light, right? So being a shining light is essentially bearing witness to the light that's on your inside. And the Bible says that is the true light that lighteth every man that cometh into the world. In other words, everybody has got that light on his inside. All we need to do is to give expression, witness the light. And as we witness the light, we will see the things on the outside will begin to, let me give you an analogy. If you light a candle, I mean, those who smoke know this very well. People who smoke, sometimes other people will put, what's the word? Don't let me use that example. But if you light a candle, if you want to light other candles, you don't need to strike the matches anymore. All you need to do is just from that same source of light, you can light thousands of candles from that tiny source of light, and it won't diminish the original source of light. So being a light, according to John's Gospel, chapter 1, is to bear witness, to give full expression to that light. And the way to give full expression to that light is, first of all, you've got to be conscious that there's a light on your inside. The Bible says that's the true light that lighteth every man that cometh into the world. You've got to be conscious of it. You've got to understand that on your inside, it's more, there's something on your inside. You've got to believe it. And it must be real to you than the air that you breathe. Once that is set, you would see that our consciousness will lead you into taking certain actions, certain decisions that will ultimately produce that impact that you so desire.
Thank you very much. Wow. Awesome. Awesome. Why must Christians take politics, especially those that are called? Why must they take it as their calling? Especially those that are called. Why must they take it as their calling? Provided if they're in business and they meet any little challenge, they don't run away. They continue to forge ahead to make the business work. Now, in terms of politics,
Sorry, a call came in, but I basically got your question.
okay. I mean, if you're in business and there's a challenge, you hold on to the challenge, you find solution to the challenge, and you proceed to the next level. But in politics, if some people sees a little challenge, they run away, they take off. No, so my question now is, why do you think Christians must remain in politics even at the slightest challenge, especially those that are called into that section?
Thank you. You see, if we understand the nature of political power, you would know that we need to care a lot about it. Daniel, the political power could have killed Daniel. They ganged up against him, and he was thrown into the pit, lion's den. If not for God, Daniel would be dead. Oh, let's look at the book of Acts. King Herod, the daughter was dancing. Ask the daughter, What do you want? The daughter, he said, up to the half of my kingdom. The daughter went to meet the mom, the queen. The queen said, you know what? I need the head of that disciple. And the king could not say no. The political power, right, can make the work of a Christian, can make the work of a businessman, can make the work of anybody become nothing, right, because of that political power. So we've got to care about it. And there are many numerous examples I can give you. If a politician wants to mess a businessman up, no matter how rich he is, right, he can just ask the regulator, withdraw the license of that businessman. And that businessman is out of business. Today, without stirring controversies, churches are locked. Religious places are locked. Who made the decision? The political leadership. Businesses are under lockdown. Who made the decision? The political leadership. So we've got to care about governance, because we will be naive to believe that your business, your work cannot be influenced, cannot even be ultimately determined by political leadership. Right. So we've got to care. We can't afford to pay lip service to this. And so, of course, not everybody would get into governance, but everybody has to be genuinely interested in it, such that you either get into it or you identify and support those who you consider equipped to take on that assignment. Right? That's one. You know, one of my favorite scriptures is 2 Thessalonians 3. It says, pray, and paraphrase, pray that will be delivered from wicked and unreasonable men, for not all men saved. Verse 4, it says, God is faithful, who will keep you from evil. So people say politics is dirty, politics is dirty. Yeah, it is. But listen, God is faithful, who will deliver you from evil. It says God is committed to delivering you from evil. All right? Deuteronomy chapter 7. God told the children of Israel, he said, see, I'm giving you a land. And he said that land, there are 7 nations that are currently occupying the land. And it says, these nations are stronger and mightier than you. The Gizites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, all the Ites. He said, see, this, their land I'm giving you. But they are stronger and mightier. But I'm giving you this. He said, go at once to process it. So the nature of life is that there will be challenges, there will be difficulties. But we cannot afford to shy away, right? Because without those challenges, there can ultimately be victory, right? So political leadership is very key. The politicians, if they want to mess you up, if they want to mess your business up, if they want to mess everything up, they can, because that is the nature of politics. So everybody's got to be interested. Not everybody can actively participate in it, but we all must be interested to either participate in an activity or identify and support those we will so identify to be equipped enough to get into it. I'm not sure I've answered your question. I believe so.
You have actually answered the question more than what you think about. Using the case study of COVID-19, telling us how superior political power can be. That's awesome. That's awesome. What are the roles of a government in a nation? What are the roles? You are surprised.
Can you speak up a bit?
What are the roles of government in a nation? For example, what are the major roles of Nigerian government in Nigeria now? According to the government of Federal Republic of Nigeria.
So the 1999 Constitution, and as amended, says that the ultimate goal of government, I'm paraphrasing, is the security and welfare of the people. That's a constitutional objective, right, and requirement. That a role of government is set up for the security and welfare of the people. And a successful government must be measured by how well it's able to interpret that role. In other words, how it's able to provide security, and security is not just security of lives and property. There's food security, there's job security. And so he says the role of government is for the security and welfare of people. So a successful government is one who is able to interpret and effectively carry out that role.
Thank you very much. Now, I haven't mentioned those roles. So those are the kind of roles that you think the Christians who really are called into this field of politics should think more about. Now, what kind of solution do you have to procure for the educational sector in this nation? If you are made the Minister of Education today, what are the things you will change in the education sector?
So first of all, I think we place too much premium. Let me rephrase it. I think we place too much premium on university education to the detriment of the lower levels of education. And that premise continues to define how we invest and handle the educational sector. So let me give you an example. In other countries of the world, primary education is considered very fundamental. Under President Obasanjo, there was a bill that eventually led to the establishment of Universal Basic Education Commission. All right. The goal then was born out of the recognition that primary education is very, very, very fundamental. So what other nations do is that they make access to primary education, and by extension secondary education, they make it accessible and they make it cost effective. They make it affordable. But guess what we do in this country? What we do is that we've made university education very, very cheap, to the detriment of and monies that we could have invested in primary education. We put everything to tertiary education. But listen, if the foundation is faulty, what can I just do? If the primary education is faulty, what's the point? And that's why you have undergraduates, graduates who can string words together and make a decent sentence, make a correct sentence, because of the fault. So if I were education minister, one of my priorities would be to appropriately retool the primary education. Because if you don't get it right, see, think about it. See, I don't think there's any primary school in Nigeria today that you would not spend up to 10,000 per term. I'm not sure. I don't think so. There's any. I believe that the ratio of, yes. But you know, there are universities today. First of all, federal government funded universities are tuition free. They pay school fees, but if you check the fee structure, what the things they pay for is exam fee, hostel, acceptance fee, but you see that tuition is generally zero. All right. The primary education, where you don't have professors, where you don't have laboratory, where you don't have many specialists, that education in most cases is more expensive than the university education. That can't be a reasonable way to govern. America has 29% of its citizens who are tertiary, who are graduates of universities. Right. So this craze that everybody has got to go to university is not realistic, especially because we have taken that to mean that we would not pay attention to our primary education. So if I were education minister today, I would make sure that the primary education is well funded. You have the right teachers. And it's, you know, I know when Governor Rufai tried to do this in Kaduna, and I was successful at it, because he just recognized his son attends a public school in Kaduna today. What he did, first of all, was that he made sure that you had the right teachers, set exams for them, make sure that the people who should teach are the people who are teaching. People who are qualified to teach, those are the people there, all right? And when he did that, there was a lot of screaming across the country, why will you do that, why will you do that, why will you do that? But if you don't get a primary education correctly, so if you're a British citizen, American citizen, education at that level is accessible and is relatively free. But when you get to the university, you pay through your nose. And the truth is that if your primary education is sound, your secondary school education is sound, you already have acquired the basic skills to actively and economically participate in the nation. So we need to place a lot of premium on primary education, on our university education.
Thank you very much, Mr. Should I call you doctor or professor or parishioner or prophet Ayokunnu Ojeniyi? You know, I asked you last time that are you part of those that gave us the Bible? Because you are backing your presentation with scriptures there. We're still going to go there because our time is fast spent, because we have some technical errors sometimes. But before we leave today, I want to point your attention to one or two things now. Media and entertainment is having huge, humongous influence on our youth today. The people who should be the future economic, future superior, future political powers are being relegated because of they are being paid. They are playing their future away, all because of pseudo gain. How do you think we can change this? And how do you think we can get our best brain back to work?
Well, I mean, if I got that question correctly, I think the media and entertainment world is a very interesting industry that I cannot claim to even understand it. But as a distant observer, I know that currently COVID-19 has had more than continues to have significant impact on that industry. Media houses are unable to sell print newspaper. A lot of adverts are not happening. Cinemas are currently closed. There are no shows. There are no, right? I mean, you and I probably will need to be having an IG session today, if not for the reality of our time. So I won't claim to have mastery over that industry, but I think what ultimately will work is to understand that industry has been largely democratized. As you've had democratization of information, you have democratization of finance, the strictures or the defined borders that often characterize industries like the media entertainment world has become large. I mean, really doesn't exist anymore. So before now, we would have to have paid a whole lot of money to have a live session, right? But with Instagram, we didn't pay a dime, and we're able to have this live. live session. You get what I'm saying? So I think it's just understanding that industry is changing, and people need to understand that the skills of yesterday won't necessarily work today. And I think to succeed in any industry, people need to understand the history of that industry, what it used to be like. Movies at some point in the 40s, nobody used to talk. It was the Charlie Chaplin kind of stuff, but things have evolved. So, and things would also evolve. So people have to think about digital technologies and see how the digitization, the explosion of data, the explosion of knowledge, and digital transformation can be married to make a success out of whatever engagement that we may have in that space.
Thank you very much, Dr. Professor Pastor Senior Lerida Ojeniyi. Last week, Saturday, you were talking about your pain. I will need you to share that again. Why? Because quite a lot of people didn't hear us. Because you made a significant point at the point that you let some things go. Beautiful doors open. I would like to hear that, how your pains form your path.
See, governance is very complex. And I think today, I got your question correctly, so don't mind that I'm starting with governance. Governance is very complex. I think part of my concern with young people, those of my age group, is that people tend to mistake knowing what to do with knowing how to do it. So you find public affairs analysts, commentators who say, you guys just need to do this, do this, do this, do this. They know what to do, but they often lack the expertise, the knowledge of how to do what you know. Essentially, they don't know how to execute. You can have the ideas, but execution is a complete ball game entirely. And execution is learned through the experiences you've garnered over the years. And that's why God doesn't throw up. God instead lifts up. Because whatever you throw up will come down. But whatever you lift up, you are able to hold it. So experiences matter, and our personal experience and the mastery and how we're able to master and handle complex situations that have come our way is very critical, particularly for those who would find themselves leading other people. Because you learn vital, incredible lessons through that experience. See, if you are not able to fight and combat, if you're not able to run with foot soldiers, with people who are on foot, how will you run with people who are on chariots? Right? Mm-hmm. So I didn't just appear today. I've been through a lot of experience. I've had a lot of experience. And I think 2013 was one of the most significant times of my life where I experienced this huge setback. A partner made away with money, and I was essentially on ground zero. No, it was actually sub-zero, right? I'd lost all the things that I had, and here was I. Here I was. I needed to first of all crawl back to that point zero and find my way up. So I did say that the first reaction was that I needed to find this partner who had gone away with my money. And so my mind, my intention, my focus was on getting that money back. What I didn't know was that unconsciously, my mind and my heart was set on that money. And it looked like, and what happened, or what was happening was that I'd somehow unconsciously believed that if I didn't get that money back, I can't spring up again. And there are a lot of times in life when people go through difficult setback, through where they go through when they experience certain setback, sometimes they clutch onto it, they hold onto it, and the progress they ought to record might be held back because of that clutch. So what I did was, one day I was praying and I got a check in my spirit to let this guy go with the money. Thank God I listened. Right? The moment I decided to do that, I found myself unconsciously. See, if you notice, I've used the word unconscious. The important things of life are actually things that are in that subconscious. Let me qualify that. The important things, the things that make us living human beings, are done unconsciously, right? We breathe. It's not a conscious effort. Our heart beats. It's not a conscious effort. Those things happen unconsciously. Unconsciously. Imagine if God had put our breathing to be within a conscious space. There won't be any living human being today, right? Because of the distractions that would happen and all of that. So when I let that money go, what happened unconsciously was that my faith and my belief was sort of recalibrated, moved away from the things that was past, and I started thinking about a new future. And things began to change for me that time, right? And that's why even in my concept, in my belief in the future prosperity of this country, I think we need to let the bygones be bygones. History is important when it is used historically, right? If we clutch onto the pains of the past, when I speak with a lot of Nigerians will say things like, people are angry, rightly. They're angry, frustrated about their country, such that people will say, why should I do something for Nigeria when Nigeria hasn't done anything for me? But guess what? Yorubas will say, in other words, if you don't forget the matters of the past, if you don't forget the grudge of the past, you will not move forward. So if all of us continue to hold on to the clutches of the past, the pains that have happened to our tribe, Yoruba people will complain of marginalization, Hausa people would have theirs to say, the Igbos will talk about the civil war. If we continue to hold on to the clutches of that past, we cannot cast a new vision for our country. I was fortunate to go to Lincoln Memorial in DC. And I heard the words of Abraham Lincoln. I first of all found it very instructive that on that memorial, they put the speech of Lincoln, they engraved it on the wall. I read those words and I began to shiver. I had goose pimples. And I said things. We've got to forget about this. We've got to cast a new vision. We've got to forget about the pain of the past, the disappointment of the. Listen, I'm not saying we should forget it, as in not understand our history, but we need to understand that this history, we must not let it, especially the bad parts of it, we must not let it define us. Right? So in casting a new vision for our country, we've got to redefine this pain. America suffered a civil war, right? But you would never hear Americans talk about civil war, talk about the division. So it's a responsibility of our leaders. I always tell people, you are Yoruba man. What part of you is Yoruba? Like, if they were to cut you open, your blood, will it seep Yoruba? No. Human beings are essentially a product of the books they've read, the company they've kept, the places they've been to. So what makes you Yoruba is not necessarily, I don't think it's genetical as people would make it be. If you were born in America, lived in America, you're not going to behave like a Yoruba man, you're going to behave like an American. So, in closing, I think this concept of ethnicity certainly favors some people. Let's say we are running for election I'll tell you, it doesn't matter on my position. It doesn't matter on my performance or my past achievements. All that matters is that I'm a Yoruba man. So all Yoruba people are will vote for me, whatever the case. Right. So a lot of people will trumpet this ethnic and weep the sentiments of the past in this country are people who ultimately benefit from it. And what they're benefiting, we need to let people understand that that history is supposed to guide us to making the right decisions in the future. It's not meant to hold us back. I will stop at this point.
Wow. 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 You're talking like a 70-year-old old Nobel laureate who minds. You're quoting a lot of minds towards solution. I love that. Thank you, Mr. Ojeniyi. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. In conclusion for today's session, your passion is contagious. How many people around you do you think can catch this passion in order for them to run and think like the way you think, which will make your work as a leader easy?
I know you know this song. I know you know the song. It only takes a spark to get the fire going.
Yes.
And soon all those all around will warm up in its glory. So essentially, see, to change a country, you don't need everybody. You just need a critical mass. And that critical mass is not going to happen until you, in your own corner, begin to do something. I believe, strongly believe, that there are 7,000 men that have not bowed down to power. There are people in this country who are extremely passionate about this country, but sometimes maybe they need encouragement. One of the reasons why I'm doing what I'm doing in terms of pathways is to let people understand that, see, is to galvanize, is to let other people, I've had people who bossed me and said, Ayo, I thought I was the only person thinking about this. I thought about it. After this session, I'm going to have a call with someone who saw my video, and then we're having a conversation on how we can make things better. So there are a lot of Nigerians, I believe, that are extremely passionate about this country, but we need to better organize ourselves so that we can make the changes that we desire. So, first of all, people need to, and that's why your personal experience matters. Have you faced a setback in your life? How did you respond to it? Did you come out of it strong? If you did, you understand that there's no problem so big enough that can kill the human spirit. The same way, there's no problem that is too big for us to solve. Whether it's a national problem, whether it's a local problem, whether it's a national, personal problem, problems are problems. They are not bigger than a human spirit. So what we need to first of all, and I believe very, very strongly that Nigeria can change if people, you and I, do our own part. Let's leave the rest. Those things we can't control, let's leave it. The things we can control, our own responsibility, our own participation in the system, we need to get it sorted. And if we can get it sorted, I believe so much in the divine force that will catalyze and amplify our individual efforts such that the changes that we require and desire would ultimately happen in our lifetime.
Thank you, Mr. Ojeniyi. I just realized I have not touched about something and I want you to talk about it before we leave. Family. Every and another. What foundation and how do you think each and every one of us can inspire and improve.
So social studies teaches us that the family is the basic unit. Can you hear me now?
Right. I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay. So social studies teaches us that the family is the basic unit of the society. Societies cannot achieve their full potentials if the family structure is not properly developed. The child's first instructor is the parents. The child's first guardian is the parent. Before the child fully gets integrated into the society, he was first part of the family structure. Most of the feelings, personal feelings that we experience in the public space is because the family system was broken. Would it interest you that in America, families that are functioning, well, I'm defining functioning loosely. In other words, families, single parents are generally poorer. Children from single parents do not end up as successful as children who are both parents, right? So there's a nexus, there's a connection between a healthy family and a healthy society. So we've got to place premium on the family. And these decisions, there's no, why will you give birth to a child you can't take care of? Why? And see, this thing, in the Yoruba, I don't know if it's really a Yoruba culture, but I often hear people in the Yoruba setting, they'll say, you know what, Allah no woman. In other words, God that takes care of the child. No, God has given you as a parent the responsibility to take care of that child. If you don't interpret that responsibility well, the child will be a misfit in the society. So culturally speaking, we've got to tell people, don't give birth to children that you cannot take care of. God is not the one that will take care of the child. If at all, God through you, because he has given you the responsibility to take care of the children and to lead the children you've brought up. In the book of Psalms, when you study the scripture, even Deuteronomy, the Bible continually makes emphasis on that you must teach your children's children. You must teach them. He said you must teach them to these laws. It is the responsibility of parents as the first instructor and guardian to lead the children rightly. And so if the family structure is not well defined, and that's part of the reasons why I said there's a soft component of society. Family, as social studies teaches us, is the basic unit. If that soft, intangible component of society is not strengthened, we won't get it right. So we've got to be careful. I'm going to be mindful of the family system. In other words, I as a parent have got to be responsible. I must not raise children that will be a burden and liability to the society.
Wow, Mr. Awesome, Mr. Ojeniyi, the great. Thank you for that beautiful expose. I must confess to you, that's a beautiful one. That's a beautiful one. That's a beautiful one. And in conclusion, what's your final word? What's your final word to everyone watching us? What's your final word to everyone that will see this video later? What's your final words to the people outside the nations, outside our country? What's your final word to them to take responsibility for their nation? What's your final words to every man and woman, every boy and girl, every male and female to their nation? What's your final word to me? What's your final word to you?
Man is a tripartite being. He has a spirit, he lives in a body, and he has a soul. There's got to be, until we have a healthy relationship with these three components, we cannot fulfill our potentials as human beings. Your body must be well taken care of. If the body is not well taken care of, it would ultimately lead to death. If you don't invest in your mind, discipline your mind, train your mind, you cannot effectively function. But ultimately, man is a spirit. So you've got to take care of that spirit. You've got to be mindful of it. You must recognize that you are not your body. You are not your flesh. You are a spirit. And that's why the role of, and I'm going to use this loosely, that's why the role of religion is very, very important. Because religion takes care, places emphasis on the condition of the human spirit. The schools that we go to, they train the mind, develop the soul, our intellectual and emotional capacity. And of course, we learn how to take care of our bodies and all of that. So until we have strong relationships with these three components, we cannot truly succeed. In 2015, Pew Research Center released a report, and I'm going to quickly round up. And it says that Nigeria, as at that time, Nigeria was regarded as the ninth or eighth most religious country in the world. And this sort of substantiates the belief where people think that, some people will say America doesn't pray, America is why they're successful. Nigerians will just be praying, but we are not successful. No, we must not make a mistake. The popular sociologist Max Weber in the early 20th century did a research and realized that the moment the Protestant ethic swept through Europe, Western Europe, the economic output of the Western Europe increased. So the problem with religion in Nigeria is the things that we have chosen to focus on. So the Bible, for example, says, "He that must not walk must not eat." Right? The Bible also says that you should be able to take care of your own household. The Bible also talks about charity. The same applies to other religious values. If we choose to emphasize charity alone, and we do not speak about the ethics of hard work, honesty, integrity, we can't have a balanced society. So the problem with Nigeria is not that people pray. It is that we've prayed, but we have not only emphasized that our faith towards God is not just a path towards God, it's also a path to develop a ideal society. Thank you very much. It's been a great time.
Wow. Thank you, Mr. Ojeniyi. I guess the time is fast spent, as I'm telling you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for having this session. Hallmark of a leader is what we've just done today, that no matter the challenge, we must definitely find solution today. Last week, we were unable to proceed much because of technical issue. The same thing wants to happen again today, but we are able to do something, find a solution around it, which is one of the great things about life. Thank you very much, Mr. Ojeniyi. I hope we can still have more of this, because I still have some of important questions that I want to ask you about the role of each one in political process, towards political process. Why everyone must actually join a political party, why each and everyone must definitely be part of a functioning political party. Because there is no way we can change this world if we, the light, decide to stay indoor and do the kabashing without going there to do the contribution, without going there to do the connection, without going there to contribute to what is happening. So that's where someone like you, your knowledge, your
we have 7 seconds left.
Oh,